Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. As you can see, it is Battle Arena Toshinden for the Sony PlayStation. This was one of the very first 3D polygonal fighting games for the Sony PlayStation. It's actually one I never played much back in the day. I actually ended up having Toshinden Remix on the Sega Saturn, which takes this game and basically modifies certain elements, adds a little bit of extra polish on top. However, at the cost of, I think, as consistent of a frame rate. I believe the PS1 version of the original Toshinden does run smoother than the Sega Saturn Remix version does. If you're going to play one or the other, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. I think Remix might actually have some more features, so that might be the ideal version to play. But it's been a really long time since I played through Remix. What we're going to do here is basically just play through the one-player game. It's basically just an arcade-style mode, and that is basically it. We're going to be playing as Eiji over here. He's the character I always played as back in the day in the Saturn version, and that's what we're going to be doing here. This is definitely an interesting piece of not just 3D fighting game history, but Sony PlayStation history as well. This is one of the earliest games available for the system, and supposedly it was quite mind-blowing back in the day. It has not aged all that gracefully from either the gameplay standpoint or the visual standpoint, but it is still fun to go back to and just sort of plow through just to revisit this piece of PS1 and 3D fighting game history. So Toshinden is one of those games with 4 face buttons, but unlike something like, say, Virtua Fighter, you just hold back to block, much like in Tekken. But you also have quarter circle forward moves. You've got command moves, basically, that are more similar or akin to something like Street Fighter. And so Eiji here basically has 2 levels of Fireball. He's also got his form of Rising Uppercut. Let's see if we can do that. The controls are a little stiff and a little finicky in this, so doing, you know, your super moves, or your special moves, not super moves, is a little cumbersome. I have a hard time especially getting out his uppercut, which is a shame because it can be really powerful if you can connect it just right.
No problem.
So you do have, actually, arenas in this game. You can get knocked off the ledge, just like in Soul Calibur or something like that. And you do have, like, small combos in the game. Figuring out what connects takes practice. And what you're going to see me doing throughout the course of this playthrough, because I'm not the most experienced, you know, player at the Toshinden games. Again, I did play Remix on the Saturn, but you're going to see me playing it relatively safe. Just trying to, you know, poke enemies with strong moves from a distance, kind of like that. And on the final boss in particular, we're going to be using a lot of jump attacks and so forth. That seems to be what the last boss is weak against. Otherwise, he can just wreck you insanely quickly.
No problem.
Now, I'll be interested to see how long it takes us to get through this game. You basically have to go through and fight every character, including yourself. There are mirror matches in this, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, it's actually kind of easy to see, like, how this would be impressive in 1995, because, you know, by that point, we were still playing lots of Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis and stuff like that. You know, 3D consoles like the Jaguar and the 3DO hadn't caught on by that point, and especially in the case of, like, the 32X or the Jaguar, a lot of its 3D games lacked lots of textures and so forth. But looking at, like, Toshinden, it's got, you know, the dynamic camera that you saw in games like Killer Instinct. You know, the camera will actually zoom out quite far in this game, which is really cool. But you've got textured arenas, you've got, you know, varied backgrounds in certain cases. This background isn't all that interesting. But I could imagine that in 1995, this just would have been, like, you know, mind-blowing stuff. Especially seeing characters move in a 3D environment like this. Like, we had Virtua Fighter before this, and technically Virtua Fighter was available on Saturn prior to this, but it lacked textures, you know, it was super blocky looking. You know, the polygons in this are more rounded. They're definitely smoother looking than like in Virtua Fighter or something like that. But again, like I said, the gameplay definitely hasn't aged very gracefully, and obviously the graphics haven't aged very well either, but it's well over 20 years old as of doing this video, and, you know, it was a totally different time in gaming back then when this game came out. And I bet you if I saw this when it was new, which unfortunately I never did, I bet you my mind just would have been just completely blown. I would have been really, really impressed by this if I saw it in '95 when it came out. I probably would have begged my parents for a PlayStation or something like that if I saw it. So... So now characters do have, like, desperation super moves in this game. When your health bar gets down into the red, you can do your super move. And I think that's... Is that his? I think it probably is. So once my health gets down really low, we'll definitely be doing that, because it seems that, like, the AI doesn't really block them that often, and they just do a crap ton of damage. And I'll have to remember what it is with Eiji. I think it's half circle back, and then it's either half circle back, then half circle forward in attack, or it's half circle back, then just forward. But we'll find out once my life gets low. So a lot of these characters, you know, the best course of action is pretty much just blocking. The dashing in this game is really, really clunky. So it's not best to try to dash and then attack. It's best to just kind of like wait until the enemy gets near you. There we go. Half circle back, half circle forward, and then triangle. There we go. Got him. Dead. Yep. So when your life is blinking in the red like that, you can pull off your desperation move. And you can see that camera on the right of the screen. They took a cue from Killer Instinct, where there's basically like a screen in the background that is replicating the action. Killer Instinct did the exact same thing. It was really cool to see that back in the day. And there we go. Hey, good fight. Any fight where I don't lose is a good fight. So yeah, I kind of want to play Toshinden Remix again on the Saturn. Like I said, I actually played that one a lot more. Because I had a Sony... I was about to say Sony PlayStation. I had a Sega Saturn before I had a PlayStation. And... so I never got to play this one back in the day when it was new. Or even really in the 90s. I don't even know if I ever owned it on the PlayStation in the 90s. Like I own a copy right now. I don't think I did. I don't think I ever picked one up. But yeah, I did enjoy Remix on the Saturn quite a bit. You know, I learned how to play the game a little bit, at least with Eiji. Nothing too crazy. I learned some of his moves, how to link certain moves into specials and whatnot. And I had fun with it. I liked some of the music, you know. I liked the full motion video intro in the Saturn version too, which the PlayStation version unfortunately is lacking. The PlayStation one is actually more of a bare bones package. There's less, you know, in terms of like introduction movies and things like that. But it's been so long since I played the Saturn one, I don't even remember how it stacks up, like, content-wise. Is there considerably more to it, or is it just a little more polished? I think it just might be a little more polished, aside from, you know, the Saturn's polygonal 3D style. Saturn rendered polygons differently than the PlayStation. I believe it rendered quads. I think that's how it did it. So it basically rendered like blocks, whereas the PlayStation was able to do triangles, which allowed for more like rounded surfaces. So on Saturn, it was harder to get like really round surfaces with the polygons without taking a severe performance hit. So when you see like these cross-platform games, the polygons are usually a little more blocky on the Saturn. You know, so if you look at like Tomb Raider on the Saturn versus the PlayStation one, or Toshinden versus the PlayStation 1. The visuals will most likely look a little more blocky in the Saturn version, whereas they'll look a little more rounded in the PS1 versions. Resident Evil is another good example. If you play the Saturn version and then look at the PlayStation 1, you'll notice in the PS1 version their arms are completely rounded and so forth. Whereas in the Saturn version of Resident Evil, they're, you know, squares, you know, rectangles, things like that. So we're just gonna go ahead and try to cheese this guy. He's a major pain. He's one of the worst characters for me to fight. So if I can just cheese my way like this, I will. I don't really care that much. There we go. And that was the first round too. Wow, that took a while. Now there's going to be another PlayStation fighting game we're going to play where the entire Let's Play is pretty much going to consist of fireballs, and that's it. Because the game is so impossible to play, it's so poorly designed. And I don't even know how I'm going to put myself through this, but I hope you guys enjoy it. And it's probably one that not a whole lot of people have actually Let's Played and completed. So that'll be interesting to see. So stay tuned for that. That'll be very, very soon. Alright, there we go. We got rid of this guy. Foe is like the worst guy for me to fight.
No problem.
So something else you can do in this game is actually press the trigger keys to roll into the foreground and background. And it's a good way to like counter enemies, dodge their attacks. I don't have a tendency of doing it that often. It seems like oops. It seems like just blocking attacks and counter-attacking works pretty well in this game. Ellis is very aggressive in this game, though. I've noticed. She's one of my problem characters as well. Like, her moves just seem to be very, very high priority. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use my desperation move. I mean, like, when she did her uppercut into the air, and I tried just punching her on the way down, she just did another uppercut before, like, my punch even came out. So it really goes to show, like, the priority she's got. So the game's probably not that well balanced either. There we go. Dead. Yeah, so a lot of times if you knock an opponent down, you can do your desperation move with Eiji. And a lot of times it'll connect as they get up. They just have a tendency of not blocking it. Wow, we still beat her. Okay, cool. Yeah, she's also one of the more challenging ones. Foe and Ellis. Mondo can actually be quite challenging as well. So we'll see what happens here. He's got a lot of projectile moves. His spear is like super long too. It's almost unfair, but it is what it is. Look at that. Desperation move. He didn't even try to block it. Oh. See, I got a little cocky with my desperation moves. Ooh, he blocked it and then counterattacked. Okay. Now what I'd like to do is my uppercut move more often, but I'm actually using the Street Fighter Anniversary controller for this game, which is what I was using for, you know, my previous Let's Plays. And I notice when I try to do moves like that, especially in these older games that aren't as responsive, like the timing seems really weird on it, with this controller in particular. So I try to just avoid it, and that's what I've been doing. It's actually a really good move if it connects, but it also leaves you at great risk when it's blocked, because you just land right up in the air, or you end up right in the air, and the enemies can just counterattack you. So my desperation move isn't really doing me a whole lot of good right now. It's okay, we'll just keep continuing until we get to the end of the game. It's not like there's limited continues or anything. I want to say in the Saturn version, you could get, like, a special ending or an alternate final boss if you manage to get to the end without continuing. I don't know if there's something like that in this game. If there is, and anybody out there knows, feel free to chime in the comments section and let me know what's going on with that. Yeah, still not timing that desperation move right. Couldn't even pull off my desperation move that time. It's like either the game's eating inputs or it's just not liking my controller. You know, when I was playing Street Fighter Alpha earlier, I wasn't really having that much of an issue with this controller. I'm actually surprised I'm having this much trouble with this guy, though. Like, he's always been problematic for me as well, but I remember just, like, wrecking through him the other day when playing the game. But now I'm having some problems, so... Alright, that's one down. Let's cross our fingers for the next one.
No problem.
Wow, that move blocks fireballs too. That's crazy. Yeah, when you're turned around in this game, you're so slow and clunky. Like, it's so hard to turn back. Oh, it didn't even touch him. So you go like a quarter of the way across the screen and they just stop in place, and if you don't make contact with them, they can just You're just wide open for them to hit you. That's not gonna hit. Oh, come on, man. Yeah, I really don't like the collision detection in this game, and the fact that enemies have such a advantage on you at pretty much all times. Like, anything I do, any special move he does overrides anything I do. So it's one reason why I don't want to be too close to him. But also, he's got a move that can block projectiles completely. His spear freaking goes halfway across the arena, it seems like. I still can't tell, like, when to block high and when to block low. Is that the second one? No, okay. Yeah, when I do my fierce sword attack, I should probably be ending it with a ducking one, because that'll actually knock him over. Bam, just like that. Knowing, like, little strings like that goes a long ways to beating these characters. There we go. And if you can knock them down, you can try to do your desperation as they get up. And a lot of times that works. I need to be playing a little bit smarter in that regard. There we go, finally! Oh man, that was actually really starting to annoy me. See, unlike something like Tekken, I feel like I don't have much control over this game in terms of, you know, dealing with the enemies. You know, they're really unfair with how some of their hits come off sometimes. You look at them and you're like, that shouldn't have even connected with me, like, you know. It just feels like a pretty unpolished engine compared to what came later. I could see how this was, like, amazing for 95, you know, especially when not many people were that familiar with 3D fighting games. 3D fighting games were kind of like uncharted territory back then. But going back to it now, you can really see how rough it is around the edges. And from what I understand, the later games in the series actually improved on the formula quite a bit. I really would like to revisit Part 3 again, just to kind of see how that one holds up. I remember it being pretty cool. Whoops. He did his desperation move. But I just did mine, so it's okay. It's like, thanks, buddy, you just put me in desperation territory, too. Alright, so after we defeat Eiji here, we're gonna go to the final boss, which is, I believe, is Gaia. Like, it's crazy, like, I can throw a fireball as he's getting up, yet instead of the fireball hitting him, or forcing him to block, he can do a fireball to counter my fireball. It's weird. It's just, it's such an interesting dynamic after coming from games like Tekken 3 and other 2D fighting games like Street Fighter and Guilty Gear and things like that.
No problem.
Alright, so this is pretty much the final boss. We'll see how long this takes us. Pretty cool looking background. Like I was talking about earlier, I found that just doing lots of jump kicks and things like that seem to work better against this guy. So we'll see what happens here. Unless, of course, he gets up close like this. Sometimes the camera locks into a really weird position. Oops. I thought I was blocking that. Apparently not. You probably have to, like, stand and block that, which I wasn't doing. See, there we go. Just like that. There we go. And we still knocked him out at the same time. These graphics are so simplistic, but I mean, just like that simple floor texture, the constantly changing lights, it's still kind of cool. It's just, when it zooms out and you realize how flat it is, you're just like, ooh, yeah. Time has not been kind to this game. And that's it. We just beat Battle Arena Toshinden. Like I said, the jump attack seemed to work really well against that guy. And when I was trying to fight him, quote-unquote, normally, he wasn't having it. It wasn't until I realized that I just needed to, you know, jump sword swipe over and over that I was able to defeat that guy consistently. So yeah, that's Battle Arena Toshinden, and that is literally the entire game. I mean, there was an intro that we missed out on. It was just a wall of text and an announcer, and then title screen, and then that's it. I mean, unless there's something else I don't know about, which there possibly is, because like I said, I'm not super familiar with the game, but unless there's something I don't know about, like beating the game without continuing or something, and you get like an alternate final boss or a hidden character or something, that's pretty much it. It's very, you know, cut and paste kind of experience, you know, just, oh, here's the credit roll. Here's the intro. Just wall of text. It's not really a whole lot to it. No special full motion video or anything like that. You've got the arcade mode, basically, or the one-player mode, and then you've got versus mode, and then that's basically it. And it tells you your super attack, actually, which is really cool. So... and it'll actually tell you this for every character, in case you don't already know it. So that's Toshinden. I don't really know what else to say, guys. Maybe eventually we'll revisit Toshinden Remix to draw some comparisons to this game. And, I mean, I've said it before already in this Let's Play, but I could see how this was really impressive in 95. Again, time hasn't been very kind to it, and as a result, the game's not that expensive to pick up. It's like an $8 game, I think. Maybe $10 if you're trying to get the full long box copy of the game. There was a bunch of follow-ups on PS1. There was Toshinden 2 and then Toshinden 3. Those both came out in North America. And, there was supposedly also a Toshinden 4 in Japan, which I never played. I hear it's not very good, but I do kind of want to check out videos of it just to see what it's like. And yeah, I mean, you could kind of call it a PS1 classic in that, you know, it was really impressive at one point in time and, you know, everybody raved about it. But again, time has not been kind to it. I don't really recommend revisiting this outside of just like historical or nostalgia reasons. But I mean, if you're feeling, you know, up to it, I can think of worse things to do, you know, to spend your time on. And I've had fun going back and revisiting this game through this version and just, you know, finishing it a few times and being able to do this Let's Play for you guys. It's been fun. It's been interesting. But, you know, the fact of the matter is there are better 3D fighting games to play on PS1. It's not the worst, though. There is one more that I'm going to play that is just absolutely horrendous, and you guys are probably going to laugh at me for trying to play it. And, I'll let you guys know what that is when it posts. So, all right, guys, I'm out. I don't really have a whole lot else to bring to the table with this game. I hope you enjoyed this Let's Play. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I've got a lot of Let's Plays on this channel, plenty more to come. So stay tuned for those. For everybody else, thanks for your usual support. Hope you enjoyed these videos, and I'll catch you soon. So until the next video, take it easy.